Hey class, Jonathan Nagel here. Today's topic is GPS navigation malfunctions. Now myself, I've flown almost 400 hours. The vast majority of those hours have been in G1000 equipped aircraft, of course with GPS navigation. Tack on some more time using a WAS approved Garmin 430 and 530 setup, and almost all of my hours have been in some sort of an aircraft with GPS navigation. I love it. I use it on every flight. And fortunately, I've never encountered any sort of error. But there are errors that can occur with the GPS. And today I'm going to take some time to discuss one of them that an individual that I know personally has occurred or has encountered, and that is GPS jamming. It's starting to happen more and more. Our own military, for the use of their training, will use GPS jamming devices in an area where their aircraft are operating. And the sole purpose of this is to train the men and women in the armed services that are piloting our aircraft to realize what they need to do to combat it. It's a training exercise for them. Unfortunately, a byproduct of it is it becomes a training exercise, or rather an emergency, for general aviation and commercial aviation alike, that the jamming devices could be affecting within that operating area. Unfortunately, with this, as was the case with the individual that I know, a lot of times these aren't posted. It's not something that you'll be able to readily find through NOTAMs. If a MOA or a training area is active and they are flying in the area, I think it's just best to assume that GPS jamming could be used within that area as part of their training. So something to definitely be aware of if you're flying in and around areas where the military are operating. For this particular individual, the indication for him came about a minute before full GPS failure. His GPS position was flickering and changing between locations away from his aircraft and his actual positioning very, very quickly for about a minute, and then his location completely changed on his GPS. This caused the aircraft that was operating on autopilot following the GPS navigation to abruptly make a hard right-hand turn, and startled the passengers that he had both in the right seat and the back. He had his family along with him. So quick action by him. He immediately shut off the autopilot, started looking to figure out how to troubleshoot, realized that his GPS was completely inoperative, and had to switch off of GPS navigation. So I think lesson learned there for him and for the rest of the pilots that he's told this story to is to always expect the unexpected. Nobody expects flying along to be inadvertently affected by military training on the ground using GPS jamming, but it does happen. It does occur. There's instances of it being reported every year. So, and those instances are actually increasing. So something to be aware of when you're operating in and around. So what do we do when that happens? Well, what this individual did was he shut his autopilot off and disregarded his GPS. He was able to switch over to VOR navigation, recognized where the military operation area was, and navigated away from it. He was in New Mexico, so there was some other obstacles he had to worry about out there as well with mountainous terrain. So along with that in came pilotage and dead reckoning, just the knowledge that he had with the area to be able to get out and around. And once he was about 30, 40 miles away from the training area, he did state that his GPS came back up. He was reluctant to use it until he was a ways away from the training area, but eventually he was able to pull it up and finish the rest of his flight, heading back home to the Phoenix area. One of the other options, if we're not able to uh, do any sort of troubleshooting, or your VOR navigation, or you're in an area that you don't know, so your pilotage and dead reckoning skills may not be perfect for the area, land. Get the aircraft on the ground and start to troubleshoot what's going on with it. Is there really anything you can do at this point in time? If it's not a jamming type of a situation, probably not. It may be something where you need to take it to a approved avionics shop to do some diagnostics and really get to the root of the problem. So, with GPS navigation, it's great, gets us from point A to point B. And nowadays, with more and more land-based nav aids kind of going to the wayside, and our reliance on GPS is growing stronger, it's an awesome tool. But we do need to be aware that it can and will fail both mechanically within the aircraft, and like mentioned in this video, there's external sources that can affect it as well. Fly safe.